Friends, welcome to another monthly favorites. This time we're covering April, and it was chock full of beauty purchases and favorites. A few of them being, of course, the recent Sephora sales event for spring, a few luxury beauty pickups, and of course, my introduction to Victoria Beckham Beauty. But I would like to kick off this list with Mother's Petalmorphosis. This dropped last month, and it was surrounded with a ton of uncertainty, a critique, just theories about where the brand is going, where the mothership formula is going. I have 3 dedicated videos breaking down the different aspects of Petalmorphosis. Of course, the first impressions when I received this palette, not in PR, I purchased this myself, my thoughts on the mothership formula, where it's headed, and of course a 6-look video just breaking down the shadows, the formulas, and just wanted to share some inspiration if you were stuck on Petalmorphosis. And from those videos and the comments left, I believe the consensus is that the previous palettes, the older mothership palettes, still have the original baked formula, because there were several rumors going around that Pat McGrath Labs was reformulating the entire mothership collection, taking out the baked shades from the older palette, and Pat McGrath Labs confirmed by replying on those comments that indeed the baked shades stayed with the older palettes. But I think, yes, we will be getting the new pressed formula that's found not only in Petalmorphosis but also Moonlit Seduction, and I believe Sunlit Seduction as well. And the alleged rumors about Sephora being the culprit of forcing Pat McGrath Labs to change their formula because of the certain ingredients, I don't think that's true. There might be some truth to it, meaning that maybe Sephora expressed concerns with their formula, but I don't think that was the origin for that decision to change the formula. All that to say, I like Petalmorphosis, and I think because of the lens a lot of people had on when this palette released, we had so many expectations, so many unanswered questions that I know I'll speak for myself. It made it tough to enjoy the palette with all these what ifs, and we don't have the bake formula anymore, and At the end of the day, Petalmorphosis is a beautiful palette. I love this color story from Pat McGrath, and despite the pressed formula not being baked, I think they are solid performing shadows. They have incredible shine, fantastic pickup. This eye look is actually from Petalmorphosis, and the Eden color I applied with my finger, and the mattes are beautifully soft, great coloring, just kind of float on the lids. Solid experience with this palette, and I'm happy that I picked up the limited edition lavender packaging. I do agree though with the black packaging, the colors stand out a lot more, whereas against the lavender they look a little more pastel, versus against the black they appear more vibrant. So that's pretty much up to you, but I think only the black palette might still be available. The lavender sold out because this was a limited edition case. Despite the hoopla, I mean, I like Petalmorphosis. I enjoy it. Yes, do I miss the bake formula, and I think it nostalgic to use my older mothership palettes, and if I want to use the bake formula, I have it. I have it in motherships 1 through Divine Rose 2, because Utopian Dream was like the transition palette where it had some baked, and then of course I think it was Moonlit Seduction that was all the new pressed powder formula. So again, I have the older VR, Astral, Blitz, the triple number shades. I have them if I wanted to use them. They're in the older palettes. I still think, despite Petalmorphosis not housing the older formula, that there are several textures to play with, and Pat still encourages the user to layer those textures and experiment with how they work with one another. And again, in regards to the color story, I think it's lovely. The forest green here I used to place along the lash line to create some really beautiful smoke, and I enjoy pairing the forest green with the muted plum and the muted rose shades, because I do like that combination. Even though some of you has said it was muddy, I like the muddy grunge. I do. I don't care if it looks muddy on my lids. I do enjoy that color combination, and to have the opportunity now with not only these shades but with these textures to, dare I say, Petalmorphosis. It's like a spring grunge palette. That's exactly what it reads to me, and I enjoy it immensely. And this was a fairly easy eye look to achieve. Despite how many different textures I have on here, I just enjoy how the colors pair together and somehow work harmoniously. Even if you think that the green doesn't go with the plum, that you stick with the plummier hues with the burgundy. I think that's what's fun about Petalmorphosis, is that you can be successful with pairing the rose with the more green, the turquoise with the plum. It all seems to work itself out. And I think one of Pat's more daring color stories, whether she came up with it or not, who knows at this point. If someone from her team proposed this color story to her and she was like yes, or she came up with it, who knows? But regardless, Petalmorphosis was a lot of fun, and let me know down below if you've been enjoying it as well. Burberry. I had the pleasure of purchasing the revamped Burberry line from Nordstrom. They have a counter there, and I did, or do rather, have some Burberry products from their older collection, and one of you was really nice to break down the history of Burberry, where I think is under a new direction now, where I agree the older palette design with the plaid magnetic heavy metal compact just felt more luxurious, and now Burberry went with like a lighter design. It's still pretty, but I think they went more like the dedicated trench coat route, which is very Burberry iconic for the brand. And yes, it feels lighter, it doesn't feel as luxurious, but what's most important, the makeup inside. And I've been using the heck out of the Burberry concealer. I've been using it more than the Gucci. I have. If I were to quickly compare, the Burberry is creamier, and listen, Gucci's creamy too. It has more of a self set, so is leaning more soft matte on the dry down. Burberry is a little more natural, soft matte-ish on the dry down, but what I enjoy is the color. This is 85 medium cool, and even though cool, it still has a little more, it's like there's still some golden in there that's not present in the Gucci. And funny, I usually pair the Gucci with Prada's Reveal Skin Foundation in MN60. That is their neutral undertone, and it does make me more cool looking. And today I applied Suku's foundation in 040, and I thought the Burberry was a more appropriate shade match for the Suku foundation in terms of undertone, and I love it. Actually, yesterday, I just dabbed the Burberry concealer around on my blemishes, and it was perfect. It blended with my skin tone. It didn't look out of place. It didn't look too light, which is something I struggle with in deciding on one concealer color to address the under eye discoloration and also blemish coverage, but I don't want it to be so brightening exclusively for my under eyes, and if I wanted it to use it on the rest of my face, it'll look odd and too light. So 85 MC Cool is like a dead on perfect match for me personally, and it is fragranced, but I'm not too bothered by it. Not too fragranced like the Givenchy Glow Serum Foundation, and I could imagine maybe not as fragrant as the Givenchy concealer, although I haven't tried the Givenchy concealer. I tolerate the fragrance because I immensely enjoy the concealer. And also the Burberry Brit Shine lipstick in Rose Petal. This is a shade I throw on, or I can throw on every day. The way it brightens my complexion is just effortless, and the shine left behind is gorgeous. My gripe, however, with the Brit Shine is that it does end up on my teeth. So when applying, I have to make sure that I remove from the inner parts of my lips so there's no transfer. But I forgive it because it's tough for me to wear pink sometimes, but because of the more shiny, balmy texture and the fact that it's a rose shade, so there's a little more red in there, it's not too pink, it's just fantastic for my complexion. I adore it. And we have the quad in Midnight. I have not yet purchased, I think it was blushing beige, something like that. It had the plum in there, but I decided to get the smokier palette, and I have an entire video swatching the shadows, demoing the shadows, providing 2 looks if you want to head over for a more detailed review. If I were to pick my next Burberry purchase, it would probably be their pressed powder, because I'm curious to see how that will perform, or if they release a highlighter. I'm also waiting on blush, because they did have blush in their older lineup. Naturally, I would feel they would provide blush for the new revamp, so I'm keeping an eye out for that. Continuing with the Sephora sale, me oh my, there was quite a few purchases I made, and to ensure that I don't miss a thing, I wanted to pull up my online receipt because I wanted to cover everything quickly. So for my in-store purchase, I picked up the Givenchy Prisme Libre loose powder blush Viole Corail number 3, and that out of the 3 that I have, it has more of a brightening effect because it's like a coral orange color. I adore the Givenchy loose blushes. The next one I might get will be plum, but maybe in the next sale. The Givenchy Rose Perfecto Shine Serum Lip Oil Stick in Chilling Brown. Even though I expected the color to be more brown leaning, in real life it's more red brown, but I do enjoy the color, the shine. The fact that it has some gold sparkle in there definitely boosts the reflective element of the lipstick, and one that I could wear solo for a little bit of a grown and sexy moment. The Givenchy Prisme Libre Blurring and Color Correcting Matte Pressed Powder in 04. I have an entire video comparing the Givenchy pressed powder to Prada Beauty's Reset Rebalancing pressed powder if you wanted more detailed comparisons about that. But I actually brought the Givenchy along for the ride for traveling, and I think it's a solid powder. But did someone bring up the Suku pressed powder? Because now I remember Suku pressed powder released, I think, beginning of the year, and boy did it fly off the shelves. I think they released 2 types, more of a matte leaning and more of like a radiant leaning for their pressed powder release, and I am just deadly curious about both of them, how those 2 compare to not only the Givenchy but the Prada. So that's in the works, and yes, I will have to order from Selfridges or Liberty London, but depending on the shipping threshold and all that, I'll decide from which retail I choose to purchase from. The Westman Atelier Sun Tone Hydrating Matte Bronzing Drops, I actually applied today under the Danessa Myricks Blurring Balm Flush in Creme Brulee, no, Spice Latte, my apologies. This is a great product, but I understand how one would not reach for this as frequently as they would for a pressed bronzer type of a product, because you gotta put it on the back of your hand, or that's what I would recommend. If you put this directly on your face, you might lose a little control because it's quite liquidy. I have 03 or Soleil Parfait 3, and I think the tone is perfect for my complexion. It gives me the right type of tanning effect, and it's more of like a dead-on brown versus like a red brown or a tawny brown or a cooler brown, right? So I do like what it does to my complexion. It plays well with my other blush products, but the step of having to prep the product first deters me a little bit. I find myself using it just because it was expensive. Even though I purchased it during the sale, I got 20% off. I feel obligated to use it because it's a more expensive luxury product, and I do understand how a liquid product might appear more natural than a powder product would, unless you're using Victoria's bronzer brick, which, my goodness, I'll get there when talking about VBB. But Victoria Beckham Beauty's matte bronzing brick is perhaps one of the best performing powder bronzers I have ever tried and now I have ever owned, because that finely milled powder is so silky. I mean, the way it just melts into the skin is outrageous. And if I had to choose, I would choose the brick over the Westman Atelier, simply because of the color. I think is beautifully unique. It's almost like a peachy brown on my complexion. And the Westman, with the more brown tone to it, I get how it could offer more of like an exclusively looking tanning experience. But again, I have to make sure I have the right brush. I gotta prep it on the back of my hand, and all these other barriers of entry that sometimes I just don't want to deal with. Nevertheless, it's a solid product, and because I have it, I will continue to use it. And as I mentioned, Danessa's Blurring Balm Flush in Spice Latte. I applied this on top of the Westman Atelier bronzing drops, and this is just one of my more effortless blush colors that I now have in my collection. The way it serves as a bronzer for me, because it has like that almost coral terracotta hue to it, which I know Haus Labs released like dedicated bronzer shades in their blush stick formula, so I have my eye on that. But you can't go wrong with the Blurring Balm Flush because the formula technology makes it where it combats excess oil and sweat on the face. So not only do you have incredible color payoff, but you have fantastic complexion performance in that the color will appear fresh all day because it kind of refreshes itself because of the Upsolite. Is that the ingredient that is like the premier ingredient in the Yummy Skin line or the Blurring Balm line? Let me know down below. The Saie, the Super Suede. I have to say, so many words. For this spring sale, there were so many different blush products that I had to hold myself back because I love blush and I could validate any reason to buy the different types. But I think the Saie Super Suede, definitely one of the more successful formula releases this time around. I have two. This is Ciao, the golden brown, and Grazie is the more berry. Gotta say, I've been wearing Ciao more often than Grazie, for sure. Although I could find a reason to wear Grazie. Ciao is a little more effortless for me because actually this past week when traveling, my allergies have just been atrocious. And I avoided applying any type of eye products, mascara, or eyeshadow. And I just left it at blush and lipstick and threw on Ciao, whether it be on top of the Westman Atelier or on top of the Danessa. What else? Oh, on top of Victoria Beckham's, oh my gosh, her Cheeky Posh blush stick. Stop it right now. Okay, so when I get to Fude Bobo brushes, I apply the heck out of mini skirt over the last week, and again, fantastic under Ciao because mini skirt is like a warm berry, and Ciao with the more golden brown hue, it just created a beautiful summery springy gradient on my cheeks. And because of this lightweight consistency, the texture plays well with others. It doesn't look heavy or muddy on the cheeks. It just has like a fabric effect on the skin, in my opinion. And I think Saie nailed the formula on this one. It's outrageously good, in my opinion. Some people weren't crazy about it, and I get it. There is a little bit of a sheen because you saw the baked dome in the compact. It's not completely matte, and because of that sheen left behind, I think it adds really soft radiance to the cheeks if you're into that more than dedicated highlighting. Again, can't go wrong with the Super Suede. I won't be purchasing additional shades because I'm fine with Grazie and Ciao, but I have been using Ciao more often because I'm just biased towards that color. And now we're on to the online order, and Charlotte's Beautifying Eye Trans Shadow palette in Sensual Sunset. I now have three. I have Super Neutral, Emerald Effect, and what I recently purchased from the Sephora sale, Sensual Sunset. And actually, when I was in Chicago, I just threw on one matte shadow and one of what she calls the Crystal Chrome or even the Crystal Pop shades in here. And I just love these shades. I know we've seen them before, and I have them in my collection, but just the effortless nature of this formula and the fact that it has tremendous impact, but you not needing to commit application and tool wise, I just picked these up with my fingers, tapped it on my lid, and was done. Okay, I didn't bother with liner, I didn't bother with mascara. I just wanted something hazy on the eyes to pair well with what I had going on the cheeks, and that was it. And Sensual Sunset for me achieves that beautifully because of the rustier red tones in here paired with like the brownie bronzes in both the matte and the shiny formulas. And you just can't go wrong with this combination, especially with someone like my skin tone. I mean, with my eyes closed. Okay, I could achieve fantastic looks with this palette. I also picked up 2 new refills from Prada Beauty's Eye Dimensions lineup, Profusion and Pulp. Profusion has to be, in my opinion, iconic Prada Beauty, because I was late to the party. I was told that this is one of the best performing quads from their palette lineup, but just the color story, I think it's incredibly unique, because typically with smokier quads, you see, like we've seen in the YSL that I showed recently in my YSL, or Yves Saint Laurent, as someone corrected me to say, formula breakdown video, where I recently purchased their quad in over Noir, have been lusting over it for months, and compared to also Burberry's Midnight, right? When we see these smokier palettes, usually you have like the taupe, the silver, the brown, the black, whatever. And as we've seen in over Noir, the more beigey with the charcoal and the black. Prada Beauty decided to throw in a lime, like a chartreuse or a citrus, however you want to classify the shade, with the taupe silver, as Casey corrected me to say, the black, and this metallic silver. Right? What an unlikely combination, and how beautifully the outcome is when pairing these different textures and shades together. It's like a new age smoky eye. They snuck in this citrus shade just to kind of liven it up, and the way the looks come together. I have a little short demonstrating using Profusion in 2 ways. I created 2 looks with this palette, and it is a lot of fun. I am so happy that I purchased this refill because I had my eye on it for quite some time. I was confident that I will make it work, right? I'm confident I'm pretty good with eyeshadow. No matter what the color story is or what the textures are, I can make it happen. This is a blast. It's a blast to use. And as I mentioned, Pulp is a lot more subdued compared to Profusion, but this color right here, I love to throw on my entire lid and just kind of have that soft peachy brown haze, and then maybe throw in the pinkier red matte, or as they like to call the soft matte, this apricot, and of course the rose gold metallic. It's a fun time. This is a lot more easygoing for me. Something, actually, I would categorize this, like, I will plop it in the same category as Charlotte's Sensual Sunset for me, because they're similar in color story and just vibe. Profusion, though, I'm imagining also just applying that citrus soft matte all over the lid as like a wash of color and going in with the hyper matte black along the lash line. So pretty. So stop it right now. You know what? Maybe I'll bring that along with me. Maybe I'll bring that with Boston and kind of create the rest of my makeup look around Profusion, where I would bring maybe Prada's foundation instead of the Suku, because of the cooler color story from Profusion. I think will look beautiful with MN60. It could look good with Sukus too. The Suku leaves me looking a little more golden. I have to decide. Let me know what you think down below, what I should do, what I should bring along with Profusion in the makeup bag. And as I mentioned before, Yves Saint Laurent's Over Noir quad in their mini clutch palette lineup. Yes, I have not used this palette yet. I'm so sorry. I had wanted to over my trip, but my eyes were killing me. They were so itchy and I just couldn't put anything near them, even though I did say I applied Sensual Sunset, because I knew for that shadow palette I could get away with applying shadow and not apply mascara. With smokier hues like this, I tend to want to either apply falsies or mascara, but maybe I should break out of that mold and see how it will look without mascara or lashes and just completely commit to just smoky shadow hues and see what happens. So should I bring Profusion or Over Noir? Maybe I'll bring both and film with both while I'm in Boston. The Valentino Liquoroso Matte Liquid Lipstick and Blush. I haven't been using this product because I've been using the Danessa Blurring Balm Flushed. What else? The VBB mini skirt, the bronzer. So it hasn't found its way into my makeup routine yet. I think the role it might play is a minimalist one, where I'm just going bare as can be, plopping on maybe the Burberry concealer on spots that need more coverage, following up with the Valentino, because it does leave behind like a soft serving of color on my cheeks. Although I expected it to be a little more brown based off the photos on the product page, but it's more of like a mauvey. Actually, that's not true. I would say it's like a light rose on my complexion, both cheeks and lips. So I will have to keep you updated on that product. The Isamaya Skin Enhancing Duo Cream Blush and Highlighter Compact in Capricorn. I do like it. I wish it was more brown leaning just based off the photos, but it's very red. I'm exaggerating. It's more like a red brown. Like the Givenchy Rose Perfecto lipstick in Chilling Brown, those are similar in hue, and I don't have a problem with those colors. It's that they make me look super sunburnt, and it's definitely a color that is hard to pair with eyeshadow, depending on what the eyeshadow is. For me, the Capricorn duo will fare well solo. One of those no makeup days where I just want blush and brows, some lip, and call it a day. That's as far as it will go. I might run into issues if I decided to apply tons of shadow. If I don't want to, however, I don't think it'll be a bad idea to go in with Capricorn and follow up with like a chunky liner moment, whether from Prada liners or from Victoria Beckham Beauty's Satin Kajal liners. So that's something I could play with in the future. And maybe I'll film a short using Capricorn in a dedicated look so I could provide a little more inspiration, not only for myself, but for you if you were stuck on that as well. And lastly, Isamaya's Lip Liner, Universal Lip Liner product in Gesha. This is what I have on alongside Gucci's Glow and Care lipstick in 113 Lynette Stone. And let me tell you, Gesha is an incredible color. I don't know what it is. This muted red brown is exactly what I need. I don't know why. I thought I might have had this in my collection, but I clearly do not, as I'm just glazing this shade like no other. And I think it's because it's like my lip color, but muted red brown. I think that's what it is. I think that's why I love it so much, because although it is like a brown leaning lip liner shade, the tone of it is unique. I can't place it, but it just pairs well with several other types of shades. I'm sorry, I was glitching with my words there. I wore the heck out of this combination. The Suku Moisture Glaze from, I think it was spring 2023. The number is 101. And it's actually more of like a tomato red. But for some reason, when I wore this Moisture Glaze lipstick with the Isamaya lip liner in Gesha, the Gesha color kind of anchored the brighter red hue from Suku's Moisture Glaze, and it was like a phenomenally well done combination. I wasn't ready for it. I was wearing the heck out of that lip liner and lipstick combo because I wasn't expecting those shades to pair like they did. You know what I mean? Because you would think to pair this with more like a red leaning lip liner to match the color, but why not pair it with something a little more neutral just to ground it a little bit and give it that more structured border around the lip? Oh, fantastic. I wore the heck out of this combination, but I also love it with the more beigeier leaning tones. I could imagine this would pair well some other more glaze lip shades that I have in my collection. I'm thinking 01 from the original release last year in January, and I'm sure others as well in my collection, but man, and I gotta sharpen it because again, I've been using the heck out of it. And like I mentioned before, Bobo Doe was so kind to send me a few of her newer designs, and I have to, if you want to see more, I have a dedicated video reviewing all the brushes. The Yoshiki Koiro Slanted Cheek Brush. If you don't know, these are Kakeshibu dyed goat hair bristles, and the dyeing process makes the goat hair a little more resilient against liquids and creams, although goat hair in it of itself can fare well against those textures. But with this dyeing process, I'm more inclined to use this brush with creams and liquids. And you might be wondering, is that a good idea? Because the brush is quite flexible, right? And I discovered when I had Victoria Beckham Beauty's Cheeky Posh in mini skirt, what I did is rub the stick on the back of my hand and use the Koiro brush to pick up the cream blush and plop it on my cheeks. I was pleased with the result because although the brush is quite flexible, there's enough structure to it where it can successfully pick up a cream product from back of hand or a palette and apply it in a diffused, even fashion on the cheeks. So if you are wondering what are the other ways you could use your Koiro brush, creams and liquids for sure, although I would recommend after that application that you gently wipe excess off your towel just so that the leftover product doesn't linger on the bristles, weighing them down, making the brush harder to clean, or forcing you to clean it more often where you could just gently wipe in between uses. This is like, when I discovered that application technique, I'm like, sign me up forever. In addition to, this has been my go-to blush brush for every freaking product I purchased in April and moreover in my collection. I just can't reach for anything else. And I have a ton of impeccably performing blush brushes in my collection. Okay, I do not have a shortage of those guys. But when it comes to this brush, it is just uncanny in its performance, exceptional in picking up a variety of textures, successfully blending and applying those textures on my skin in an even, smooth way, in a diffused fashion, does not look dry and heavy on my cheeks. It is just a remarkably designed brush. I mean, bravo to Bobo doing it again. She does it again. The silver fox hair trapezoid brush. I mean, there's so many others that I kindly sent to me and I humbly received in PR. And again, if you want to see a breakdown of each of those brushes, I have a video with close-ups and demos using them with several products. And now we have arrived, Victoria Beckham Beauty. I had the pleasure of finally trying her brand last month, and what can I say? I am a fan, and I knew I would be, just based off the feedback I've heard over several months about her makeup. And when I felt the packaging, when I felt this freaking bronzer brick, the compact alone just yanked me in, okay? But the product inside was just exceptional, and it's hard for me to pick a favorite product out of what I purchased, but I've been using the heck out of the Cheeky Posh blush stick and mini skirt, as I told you. The lipstick, the Posh lipstick, is pretty nice actually. I compare it to Lisa's Rouge Experience, where it's like a lipstick balm. The color is there for sure, but the texture is so lightweight. It's a unique formula. And again, so much that it reminds me of Rouge Experience. The Kajal liners, everyone was gushing over those Kajal liners. And I see both sides where they are so soft that it could be a little tricky to apply them in a precise fashion. But the trade-off is that it makes it beautifully easy to blend. So if you wanted more of like that hazy effect on the lash line, you could very much achieve that easily with a satin Kajal liner. If you wanted something a little more structured, I think it will be best to let it dry down a little bit. And that's something a few of you have recommended, that you need to get the timing right so that the liner can set in a way that you don't just blend away what you just applied. So there's a little more grip to the lid and therefore more color left behind when you decide to blend it out to whatever degree you like. I have the matte, I guess I forgot what she calls it, the shimmer, and like the sparkly arcly. I have to use them more often, again, because the last week and a half I took a break from my makeup because my eyes were going on the fritz. But I'll hop in again, try the timing, experiment with that, and see what happens with combining that with shadow and whatnot. The eye pots are insane. Crazy sparkle, although I do understand how one can run into an issue because they do have a little bit of that texture. They're so reflective. I think it's inevitable that an eye pot like that is going to have a little more flakiness, if you will, but I don't mind actually, because the finger pickup is incredible and adherence fantastic when you tap on the lid, so I forgive them. And the two shades that I have is Tea Rose, and what's the other one, for goodness sake? Ah, yes, Mink. Mink is one of those shades where you just need to put this on and be done. Okay, it's just one and done. The coloring is perfect. The smokiness, just the shine is outrageous. I love it. And maybe I'll bring this along. Ooh, you know how this would pair beautifully with Profusion? On the lid with that citrus soft matte, or even the black or the silver on the inner corner. So many ideas. Oh, maybe I'll take this. I'll put it in the makeup bag as well for en route. And again, I have the satin Kajal liners. I have to say, now thinking about the Moisture Glaze lipstick, Victoria's 04 lip liner would have been a good pairing too. The reason I gravitate towards Gesha is because it's more brown leaning, muted, where 04 is a lot more red leaning. So that's why probably I don't pick it up as much when I have Gesha nearby. But it's fine because it does add a brightening quality to my lip for sure. These are some of the Kajal liners, and I quickly wanted to show the eye palette in Victoria, I believe. This shade is similar to Mink. So, you know, it's one of those things where they look the same side by side. Maybe you can detect subtle differences in the undertone. Effortless palette as well, and one that I would consider bringing along for the ride. I want to bring everything. This is my problem with packing, but it's just so cute, but heavy. This little guy is heavy. It's refillable, but the pan itself is magnetic. I think because of the magnetic elements in the packaging naturally makes the entire compact heavier. I don't think the bronzing brick is magnetic. Maybe it is. I have to check because I do have my eye on number 4, and that is more red leaning, but ooh, would it look like toasty on my cheeks. And that is it, family. A beauty roundup for April. And I am thrilled with my purchases. I've been using the heck out of them. I've actually been having a hard time rotating between all of them because I just want to use everything at the same time. But I know that I have to just be patient and an incentive to just put the brakes on the buying for a little bit because April was a little intense, okay? I realized that there's a new YSL quad out, like the olive one that got peaked on IG. Don't know when that's gonna release. The House Labs bronzer blush sticks. I think YSL released some highlighters. I don't know though if they're available in the States, and a few other new makeup releases, but I'm pressing on the brakes because I have such newly purchased beautiful makeup that I still have to use plenty of, and I am content with my picks. So let me know what your favorites have been for the month of April, if you have any of the same makeup products that I purchased, and if you made it this far, make sure you like this video because it does help the algorithm in recommending more of my videos and just encouraging you to watch more. of me. Thank you in advance. And make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you are alerted immediately of when that upload drops. And if you want to check out my full review of what I purchased from Victoria Beckham Beauty, you can click that video here. I'll see you in those comments. See you in the comments for this video, and on here again next time.